Hello there and welcome to IV Tutor. In this video, we just want to look at a few questions on C strings and understand how to apply the knowledge on C strings. And if you haven't watched the brief overview on C strings, please go and watch that video. So without wasting time, let's look at a few examples here. The first question here says a palindrome is a word that reads the same front from the front, same way as from the back. For example, kayak. The following code fragment reverses the letters of a word and then tests to see if it's equal to the original word. Consider the code and then answer the questions that follow. So this question is not really about how to check if a word is a palindrome. It's about understanding if you know, or checking if you know how C strings work. So let's look at line number 1. We define a character called temp and a char array with a capacity of 6. Like here we are declaring and initializing a C string. Here we are also declaring and initializing a C string, right? So let's just go to the question first and just see what exactly they want, and then we can come back and look at the code. It's to explain why the instructions in line 3 or the instruction on line 3 is problematic. Give the correct code to assign the value of word to save word. So if we go on line 3, we've already identified that save word is a C string, right? And word is also a C string because it's a char array, and so forth. Only that here they defined these on one line. So don't get confused there with this line. You are allowed to declare many items on one line. Like you can go int, then go x, y, and z on one line. That is exactly what's happening in this case. So we know that word and save word are C strings, but then what's happening on line number 3 is that we are trying to use the assignment operator to copy word into save word. And we know that you cannot use the assignment operator with C strings. Okay, this is not going to work because the assignment operator cannot be used to assign C strings. The solution, though, is to use the string copy function, right? So your solution there would then be to do something like strcpy. You are copying into save word from word. And if you want, you can use the safer version, which is strncpy, which goes save word, then you go word, and then your limit becomes 6, or in this case, 5 characters, right? Because remember that your C string must be the number of characters plus the null character. So here we are saying the limit is 5 because we are copying 5 characters. The 6th character is reserved for the null character. So you can do it either way, okay? So that is basically what was happening in this question 1.1 there. And then the next part says, explain why the instruction in line 11 is problematic. Give the correct code to test if the value of word is not the same as the value of save word. So in line 11, we are trying to compare if these two words are not equal. So that's an exclamation right here. And the challenge here is, again, we cannot use these operators with C strings. We cannot use we cannot use inequality or equality operators with C strings. We have to use the string compare function, the strcmp function. So, and we said that it returns 0 if those strings are equal. And here we are checking if they are not equal. In other words, we are checking that it does not return 0. So you can rewrite this statement then as if, then you go string compare what? Word and save word. And you are saying if this does not return a 0, which means if they are not equal, because remember, if they are equal, it returns a 0. So if you say if equals 0, you're saying if they are equal. If you say if it's not equal to 0, then you're saying if they are not equal. So that is how you can then replace your if statement here if you're dealing with C strings. Okay, then the last question says, the output of this code is not exactly what we expect. It actually outputs that kayak is not a palindrome. Why? How do you change the code on line 2 to fix the problem? So they actually say the problem is on line number 2. Okay, so if we step through this code, let's see what's happening here. So they say int j equals 5, which means we start by saying j equals 5. We don't know what j is or how j is being used. The only way to make sense of this is to go ahead and look at the code. So here we are copying word into save word because we've fixed this line, which means these two are now, we've now copied word into save word, right? That's fine. Then we say int I equals 0, I less than j plus 1 over 2. So the idea is to loop up to the middle point of the string, right? So we are saying, we just want to put these missing small little characters that are not visible here so that we can see clearly what's going on. This is a semicolon. This is also a semicolon. Okay, that's better. This is also I. So this question is then saying int I equals 0, I less than j plus 1, which is 5, then 6 over 2. This becomes 3i plus plus. Okay. And then we go temp equals word I. So we take the current character, we store that in temp at index 0. Then we say j, word j equals word I. So what we are now doing here is we are saying j is 5, right? Which means we are actually at the end of the string, okay? And this loop is going to loop up to the middle of the string. J is 2, 5. We didn't change j in this loop. And it's now saying, take the first character, put that in temp. Okay, fine, hold it for me. Then we take the last character, right? And we put that into the first character, right? And then we take temp, which is the first character, and then we make it the last character. In other words, these three lines are simply swapping the current character to the last character, the first character to the last character, okay? Then we decrement j by 1 and we increment I by 1, which means we are swapping characters, the first character and the last character, the second character and the second from last character, the third character and the third from last character until we get to the middle of the string. That is what this code is trying to do. But then it's not working. And the problem is on line 2, where we say j equals 5, right? Now, the problem is if we look at our word here, if we draw an array that says, let's say kayak, right? Because the question says, oh, it's saying that kayak is not a palindrome. So let's look at the way it looks. So if we draw our array, remember it is 6 characters, right? Which means this is index number 0, index number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hence these are 6 characters. Now let's write our word. K, A, Y, A, K, now character. Now do you see where the problem is? The 6th character, which is index number 5, is actually the null character. What we want is actually just these ones, which means our J should actually be 4, not 5, because here we are then swapping these 2, and then these 2, and then these 2, and then it says, not a palindrome, this won't work. Whereas what we actually want to do is to, compare these 2, these 2 here, and then these 2 here, and then the middle one, it stops. Then we can say it's a palindrome. So then your problem here is that J should be equal to 4, because by starting at 5, we are actually picking the null character. So then your answer there for 3 is that make J equals to 4. Why? Because index 5 is the null character, not the last character of the string, okay? Because index 5 is the null character, not the last character of our string. So that is what we need to do there. So the main takeaway points from this question is to understand how to use your functions to copy strings, understand how to compare strings, understand that I think those are the two functions we used, string copy and string compare, right? That's it. Next question. This one says, find errors in the following statements, explain the reason for each error, and provide the correct statements to achieve the desired effect. Okay, we are using CStrings here. Line number 1 is fine because we are declaring and initializing a string. The main thing to check is that, is this size enough to accommodate this string? How many characters do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. This has a size of 5, which is fine because we need 4 plus 1 to accommodate the null character, which is okay. So line number 1 is fine. Now here comes the second line. If string is not equal to stop, there is the problem. We cannot use inequality or equality operators with C strings. Rather, we need to use the string compare function, which means, again, your if statement here should be if string compare what? str and stop is not equal to 0. That is what you really want to do. Okay. Then this one says stop, str equals stop. Again, that's not how you assign. You cannot use the assignment operator with C strings. So you want to do str copy, then you can go copy into str this word stop like this. Or you can use the safer version of these functions, but basically that is what you're trying to do. So you are simply identifying that I cannot use these inequality operators or equality operators or the assignment operator with C strings. Instead, you have to use C string functions. That's all. Okay. Next question. This one says, consider the following C++ code fragment. Explain what is wrong with the code in line number 2. Let's go to line number 2 here, which says name equals. So you see that from line number 1, we are declaring a C string, which is fine. But then here, there's something wrong here is if you are declaring a C string and not initializing it, then you must actually specify the size of your string. That's the first thing you must take note of. Secondly, if you define a C string, you cannot initialize a C string using the equal sign. You have to use the string copy function. So here we are attempting to, number 1, we are attempting to initialize a C string with the assignment operator. Again, the syntax is wrong because we don't need to use square brackets when initializing a variable. We only use square brackets when declaring the array. Okay, so that's what's wrong. There are two things being wrong. The syntax is wrong because we cannot use square brackets when assigning a variable or an array. And again, we are attempting to use the assignment operator to initialize a C string, which also won't work. Write one or more statements to correct the error in line number 2. So there are two options. You can simply convert line number 2 into something like char name equals James Khumalo, like in this case. And then you don't need line number 1. Or you can just go string copy into name, then you put your James Khumalo here. But then your first line should then be char name, and you specify the size. In this case, how many characters do you have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 18. You would need 14 characters, including the null character, if my counting was right. So you can either do it this way, or you can just replace both lines by this one line, which means here you declare and initialize, or you can declare on one line and then initialize on the next line using the string copy function, which is what we discussed in the brief overview video. If you haven't watched that one, please go and do that. Then the last question says, what distinguishes a C string from an ordinary array? A C string has a terminating null character at the end of the string. And that is what distinguishes a C string from an ordinary char array. And remember, if you don't have the null character, then it means it's just it's just an ordinary array. It's not a C string. What makes it a C string is the presence of the null character. Okay, that's this question. Next question says, given the following C string variable declarations, explain why the following statements are problematic and give the correct code to achieve the desired results. So we've defined two strings here, the one called str1, the other one str2. This one is the size of 20, this one is the size of 15. This is okay, we declare and initialize, that's fine. This one we only declare and we don't initialize, that's okay. Now here we say if string.length, that is the first thing that's wrong here. We don't have a dot length function with C strings. If you want to get the length of a C string, we use the strlen function, or you can use the strlen. strlen function. That's it. This one. That is what you use to get the length of a C string. Secondly, you don't copy strings like this. You use str copy. Okay. So the first problem is we don't have a length function on a C string. Rather, we should use the strlen function. So if you correct this code, then it's going to look like if, then you go strlen, then you go string1 is greater or equal to string length, string2, then string copy from string2 to string1, like this. So that is how your if statement would then look, which means you have introduced the string length functions, you have used the copy functions instead of doing this, and also doing that. Okay, so you just have to keep practicing C string. There isn't really a lot that you need to remember. It's just basically understanding the do's and don'ts, and also understand the functions and how you use the functions. The last question we want to look at here is this one, which says explain the difference between this line and this line. So here, in the first line here, we are declaring and initializing a C string, which means short string is going to be an array with a size of 4, where the fourth index is occupied by the null character. Whereas in the second line, short string is just going to be an ordinary array with 3 characters. So this here is an ordinary array. This here is a C string. In other words, it is a size of 4, 3 characters, and the terminating null character. Remember, when you declare and initialize a C string and you just leave your square brackets like this, your compiler will define the array in such a way that it has enough capacity to hold your characters plus the null character. Okay, so that's the main differentiating factor. The other one is a C string. The other one is just an ordinary array with 3 characters. Okay, and that's it for C strings. So you have to just look at more questions and practice more, get used to, the dynamics of C strings. Otherwise, there isn't really much to C strings. You can see the questions are quite simple. It's like few marks, So it's a matter of you just practicing and knowing exactly how to use C strings. Okay, that's it for C strings. Let's meet again in the next videos, which is vectors. I'll see you there.